Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at Transformers Studio Series number 56. This is the Leader Class Shockwave toy. So this is the first toy that movie Shockwave has received since the Dark of the Moon toy line. And you can see they have the call out to his movie right there, Dark of the Moon. Shockwave himself, size-wise, is kind of halfway between what you would expect of a Voyager and a Leader. And then to help pad out the price point, he comes with this little Paratrooper guy, which is very different, right? How often do you get a toy, Transformers toy that has like a vinyl parachute on it? And then you can't see it right now, but he also comes with little tiny figures of Brains and Wheelie. So, you know, they do what they can to justify the price point. So I guess I'll give them props for that. But anyway, if you've seen my reviews, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Shockwave's packaging, and we'll open him up, see his instructions, and we'll see Shockwave himself in both his vehicle and robot modes. Of course, we'll take a look at his little buddies and accessories. And then at the end of the video, I will give my final thoughts. So Shockwave looks pretty nice in this package. I think they did a pretty good job of arranging things around to where you can see most of Shockwave's body over here. Paratrooper, and then I don't know why they decided to hide the two smaller figures behind this, but they're in there somewhere. I can't even see them, honestly. But they're in there somewhere. Again, overall, he's a little small for a Leader, which, I mean, 2019, 2020 time frame, it's just nothing new at this point. You can see this render of him on the front, which looks like it was almost lifted directly out of the Dark of the Moon movie, so it looks very cool, very menacing. The glow effect on his eyes, really well done. His little clawed hands look like trouble. Let me turn this on the side. You get a different render of Shockwave kind of looking up at you. That's something you never want to see in your life. And then here on the back, we have renders. So you got Shockwave's weird Cybertronian tank mode. You got his robot mode, and you see these renders make him look like he's a much lighter purple than the actual toy, which concerned some fans when they first saw it, because like, ooh, why is he so bright purple? That looks weird. Well, luckily the toy's a lot closer to how he looked in the movie. You got your Paratrooper dude there, and then here are the it's Brains and Wheelie. And I'm hoping they're as well painted on the finished product, but I have a feeling they won't be. You got his Battle of Chicago backdrop over here, which is pretty neat looking, and I think this one's unique because you got the aircraft with the little troopers, you know, parachuting in. So I think this is new to him. And oh yeah, he only takes 17 steps to transform, so very simple. I hope this 17 steps are very creative 17 steps. Otherwise, I might feel a little cheated by the engineering here. And then, of course, on the side, you get the close-up of his render from the front. So you get a better full body shot, and it just looks very cool. All right, before moving on, I just want to point out that though you can't tell, over 2 months have just passed. You see, in between filming the introduction and then unboxing the figure and preparing for this, my youngest son lost the Paratrooper that comes with this toy. And took me this long to find it. So, yeah, sorry for the delay. This is now coming out very late and probably won't be seen by too many people at this point, but I'm determined to finish what I started. Also, I'm going to say I have sleeves on. Got myself into some poison ivy, so my arm's rather unsightly at the moment. But moving on. So here we got the Shockwave instructions, and again, very cool, very detailed line render of him on the front. Again, he's number 56. Let me open it up. And he has a relatively simple transformation, much more like a Voyager than a Leader class. But you can see it starts on this side, takes up pretty much the whole back half, and finished image. And then a cross-sell for old Scavenger, who I previously reviewed. All right, let's take a look at Wheelie and Brains. It's maybe difficult to get this camera to focus on these very tiny figures, but here's Wheelie. can see just how very small he is. I mean, he's like about the size of my thumbnail. But, you know, he's impressively painted for something so tiny. You can see he's mostly blue and black. And he does have painted red eyes, so that's cool. He's made of a very, very soft plastic, almost like a rubber, so he's going to be very fragile, especially with his, especially his little tiny arms and legs and stuff, so be very careful with this. And Brains feels a little bit more solid. He's a little thicker limbs and everything. And he's done in mostly silver, with his eyeballs and the front of his hair being painted this metallic blue. Unfortunately, the back is just silver, so they didn't go all the way around with that. That's a shame, but he's cool looking, and you know, they have a lot of sculpted detail for something so very small. So it's neat though. They're in scale with each other, and they are in scale, you know, more or less with Shockwave, which necessitates their very small size. And next, we have my elusive Paratrooper. And here he is. And if this doesn't bring back memories of having the old army men as a kid, I don't know what will. This guy comes with this very rectangular parachute. You can see it's kind of got this like gridded pattern kind of sewn into it there. He's got a total of, 8 strings connecting him. Be careful not to get those all tangled up. When I found this guy finally, they were very tangled. It took me a few minutes to get it fixed. You can see he's got these pretty unsightly, like, flat tabbed hook things to hold the strings on, which kind of break the immersion a little bit. But, you know, you don't want a flimsy, tiny piece of plastic holding these on. It's prone to break. You can see he's mostly done up in this shiny black plastic, and then he's got a little bit of a, like, tan, very pale tan bit of paint for his mouth and stuff. But his face is very well sculpted. You can see the goggles. You can see his nose, which the nose is actually black. I don't know if he's got some kind of cowl or something on. It's feasible. I don't remember how they looked in the movie all that well. But he works, and you know, you can do all sorts of parachute tangly antics with Shockwave's face. And I can't really show it, but this guy does drop pretty well from a height. So he works quite well, which I think is why my son decided to play with it when I wasn't around. Now let's go ahead and move on to the main attraction. All right, here is Shockwave's Cybertronian tank mode, or at least that's what we're going to call it. It could alternatively be known as his yoga pose. So as you can see, right off the bat, you have a very exposed face, which is only slightly covered by these little guards, which are very reminiscent of the guards used for Megatron. In fact, I think they might have part shared those. I think they did. But you can see he's got his big cannon, which works well for a tank mode. It's attached to the big old cable hose looking thing. Got 3 boosters in the back, and you can see they're actually all 3 of them on hinges. These 2 are like diagonal hinges. This one's just looking up and down, so you know, Shockwave can get thrust in different directions. So that's a really nice touch. You can see he's got these non-functioning treads on the bottom here, but he does have wheels to roll on. There you can see his chest, but luckily it doesn't get in the way of anything. He's got these like spikes protruding from the front here. He has a very visible hand. He's kind of scratching his own back there. And then he's got his little like spiky sword weapon thing on the top, which, you know, that's the nominal placement for it. I guess if you don't like it, you could always take it off. Make them a little more streamlined. Up to you if you want to do that. And, you know, there's just not a whole lot to see. Not a lot of moving parts. Rolls, not so great. But this is what you get. And, you know, this is a figure where you can tell that, you know, a sacrifice had to be made somewhere. He was either going to get a very convincing vehicle mode and be much less screen accurate, or he was going to be very screen accurate in his robot mode and then just get this cobbled together mess. You know, considering Shockwave in the movie didn't actually have a vehicle mode, they had to just kind of make one up. And it's the same thing they did for his previous toy from the actual Dark of the Moon toy line. It's kind of a cobbled together like tank mode. But at least this time he has a much more faithful robot mode. And speaking of that robot mode, let's go ahead and convert him. All Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is remove his little stabby weapon. Just get it out of the way for now. And we're going to lift his arms up off of his back. They're just kind of tabbed on there. You can see there's a little tab. There's the slot for the tab. So you do that with both arms. Just kind of move them up and away. And you're going to swing them out. Like so. And the shoulder panels are also tabbed into the back there. Now you're going to remove his back section from basically his butt. Attaches via a little peg right there. Just kind of lift this up and out of the way, like so. Now his little back booster section. It's on a double hinge, and you're just going to fold it all the way down till that locks into place. Now his legs. They are plugged into his sides, like so. So you remove that, swing them down. Now we're gonna put his feet in normal position, and these little face guard things are rotated around, down, like so. So they form kind of like heel spurs. So same thing here. Kind of flip them down, gives them a little bit more support in the back. All right. Now his hips, they're going to swing up and in until they snap into place like that. And now the back section, just going to bring up, flush against his torso, and then these are going to plug in right there. So just kind of pop in like so. Pose the head. Get him standing up however you need to. Et voila, we have Shockwave. Now for the finishing touch, take a little spiky stabby weapon. You're going to attach it to the back of his forearm via this little 5mm hole right here. Now on my copy at least, it's a pretty loose connection, kind of wobbles around a bit. So you gotta be careful not to knock it out of position or even knock it off of him. But yeah. This thing is an absolute treat for the eyes. This metallic purple paint that he has over most of his body is just gorgeous. When light reflects off of it, makes him look like an absolute premium figure. Like something you would get from an expensive third party, model maker or something. As far as posability, he's pretty advanced for a Studio Series toy. So he's got his head on a ball joint. He can look every which way, which is good. He's still got the movable boosters, which is nice. Shoulders are a hinge and swivel, like the Siege toys. He's got a bicep swivel. Single bend elbows. And he's got asymmetrical hands. So on this side is a cannon, but he actually has a little thumb that does move back and forth, so that's cool. And then his hand here, it's just one solid piece of like a very soft plastic, or really more of a rubber. And that, unfortunately, it doesn't rotate, it just kind of swivels back and forth like that. He's got hinge and swivel hips, which is nice. It's got a thigh swivel, single bend knees, though the knee pads do swing inward, so you can have him kind of flush up against his thigh even as he bends his knees around. It's cool. And then he has ankle rocking and ankle tilt, which is honestly very rare for a Studio Series toy. That puts him ahead of the game big time. Most of the Studio Series toys do not have ankle tilt. Now he has a tendency to be a little back heavy, and because of the ankle rock, he wants to kind of lean back like this sometimes and fall backwards. So you got to pose him just right. Tilting his feet out a little bit helps mitigate that, as it does for most toys that have a back heaviness issue. And I mean, this thing is just beautiful. The hose is really well done, or cable, whatever you want to call it. Very flexible. I'd be careful as this thing gets older, because rubber has a tendency to kind of harden and become more brittle with age. Same for his spikes and his hand and all that. Just be careful handling these parts as the years go on. But yeah, I mean, man, this thing. Absolutely gorgeous toy. Now here's a look at the total package. You got Shockwave with 2 little Autobot opponents and your Nest Paratrooper guy. Just so you can kind of see how they scale. And I think they really killed it. Though I'm not entirely convinced that the Nest Trooper isn't maybe slightly too big. I feel like, I don't know, Shockwave just seemed a little bit bigger compared to a human in the movie, but maybe not. I might just, have a tainted memory there. Now, of course, if you want to have some fun, you could always recreate that iconic scene of the guy dropping his parachute down over Shockwave's head, which I've seen a bunch of people do at this point, so it's not like I'm being very original, but, if you haven't seen it, I gotta show it to you, if it'll stay on. So, something like that, more or less, kind of, sort of. If I remember right in the movie, the trooper actually detaches from his parachute and just lets it sit on Shockwave's face, which I suppose you could do if you're careful. There we go. Showing this one time and one time only, because I don't like taking my toys apart, but there. Guy's detached from his parachute. Probably needing a clean pair of underwear right now after realizing what he just did. And Shockwave doesn't look none too pleased. Now for a comparison, I don't have the original Dark of the Moon toy, but here he is with the G1-iest Shockwave that I have. This is the first Masterpiece Shockwave, the cartoon accurate version, who I never would have bought if I knew that they were, within that year that I got them, going to make, a plus version with toy accurate colors, but too late now. It is what it is. But I just wanted to highlight kind of the obviously radical differences in the design, but also the inspiration. The biggest things being the cyclopic eye, having some sort of antennas, though the movie Shockwaves are more curved forward like devil horns. Obviously the cannon arm, though movie Shockwaves on the opposite side. And then just kind of having a rather large backpack. Oh, of course, and then you got the power cable running to the cannon. So again, just like most movie characters, he's a rather unique take on a classic design, but he definitely hits more of the marks than most of the movie characters do. You can look at this guy and tell who he's supposed to be, unlike, say, Jazz, right? Jazz looks nothing like his Generation 1 counterpart. If you want something a little more standard, here is Siege Shockwave, the other generation Shockwave to be released in the last year or so. And one thing you can see, there's a very stark size difference between these two. Now, obviously, the Siege toy does come with some armor to bulk him up, but when you consider the fact that this Shockwave comes with like a Paratrooper, 2 accessories and all that, I think you can see that one feels like a much better value for $50. And I think it's evident because while you can go to pretty much any retail store, Walmart or Target, and find still tons of this guy clogging up shelves, I mean, I don't think I've seen a single Studio Series Shockwave on a shelf. I got my guy online, and whenever he shows up in a store, he flies off the shelf quickly. Because he's just, for one, he's just a gorgeous toy, and two, I think people they feel like they're getting more for that $50. I don't have a postage scale to weigh the two and compare their actual mass, but a lot of time, it comes down to appearances. They might be the same weight. Heck, Siege might be heavier with all of his accessories. But looking at them, the Studio Series version definitely looks like the better deal. And now, in the name of fun, here's Shockwave with his fellow Dark of the Moon Decepticons. Yes, I'm including Thundercracker, even though he never actually appeared in the movie, because, frankly, he's just an awesome toy and I want to see him. Now, some of you may ask, where's Crankcase? Well, I don't know who you're talking about. There is no Crankcase toy in Studio Series. There's only a gold-haired Crowbar. And I will die on that hill. There's no Crankcase to be seen here. Because we all know, if Hasbro wanted to make a Crankcase toy, they would just redeco Berserker, who's identical to Crankcase. So I don't know who you're talking about. That toy does not exist. All right, and one last little group shot before I forget, because I wanted to address the part sharing with this toy. There are 2 parts, or really sets of parts, that he borrows from the Revenge of the Fallen Megatron toy, the first Megatron they did in Studio Series. And those parts specifically are these upper thighs. They have these like little circular details on them. And I mentioned the face guard earlier, that I thought that they were the same piece between these two. Specifically these. And turns out, yes, they are identical pieces. So, very oddly, he borrows parts from a toy that's, what, a couple years older than him and a completely unrelated character. Alright, now, with all those things said, I think this is going to wrap up our review of the new Leader Class Shockwave from Studio Series, as well as Brains Wheelie and Random Nest Human Guy. So my thoughts on this guy. He is a beautiful piece. I mean, they absolutely nailed the screen accuracy for his robot mode. The alt mode is nothing to write home about, but honestly, I'm not even mad because he just looks so good. I just don't even care. I'm probably never going to transform again after this review. Now, you could say that kind of makes him a poor transformer, which you're not wrong. Part of the quality of a transformer is how well it transforms from one thing to another. So, you're not wrong. He's not a great transformer, but he is a gorgeous action figure. And, the added bonuses of having a little brains and a little wheelie to scale, getting your little Paratrooper guy so you can enact that final stand for Shockwave. There's a lot of fun bonus stuff here. Now, of course, there's always the question with these new leader toys, is it worth the price? And obviously, we've gotten a lot more for $50 in the past. Heck, we've gotten a lot more for $45 or $40 in the past. But times do change. This is kind of the new approach with leader toys, for the most part. There's still a few large characters out there, like Jetfire and Scavenger. But for the most part, they tend to be smaller toys that just come with extra stuff now to help flesh out the cost. So, in light of current times, I'd say he's much more worth it than a lot of the other leaders that have come out in the last couple years or so. And, if the price isn't a deterrent for you, I think he's absolutely worth adding to your collection. He is one of my favorite Studio Series toys to date, because he just absolutely crushes the look. Not only is the mold just beautiful and, really captures Shockwave's appearance, but the paint on this guy is, my God, almost everything is painted. And, they found the right mix of not making him too brightly colored or too vibrant, while still not also making him look very dull, which is hard to kind of strike up with a lot of movie characters, especially the Decepticons. They tend to have very muted colors. The Dinobots suffer from that too. You can barely tell what color they were other than silver. So I think he really crushes it. Now, the renders for this guy, like I mentioned already, made him look super bright purple, and I thought it was going to be terrible looking. And then when you actually start seeing the in-hand photos, you're like, oh man, cool, that was just the way the renders look. The real deal looks phenomenal. So yes, highly recommended. To me, one of the most highly recommended toys for the Studio Series line. But now that I have given my opinion on that, like I always say, what matters more to me is your opinion. What do you think of this new Shockwave? Is he the update you've been looking for? Do you find him lacking? Is there anything you would have changed about him? I can't wait to hear your comments in the comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you want to see more of this. If you do want to see more of this, or any other content I put out, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at a gorgeous centerpiece figure in the form of old One Eye. And I do apologize for being 2 months late. But with all that said, I will see you next time.